What's going on, guys? It's Ethan Waddell here. Haven't made a YouTube video in a while, and just decided to kind of talk about the new KX 450 that I got, some of the pros and cons with it, parts I got for the machine, why. I'm also going to give you guys some beginner tips on if you were buying any of the brands, any of the bikes. I'll tell you which parts you should get, which parts you should stay away from if you're trying to save money, or if you're just trying to go all out. Obviously, I'll try and do the budget-friendly one, along with ones if you want to build this bike up. I want to talk about Kawasaki contingency money, what I know, what the future would hold for it, tips and tricks as well with some of the setups. So, and then when I'm done, I'll try and do a little zoom in on the bike on some of my parts that you guys can see what I'm talking about. So first off, the bike. If any of you guys have been following my channel, you guys know I've been riding KTM Husqvarna gas, especially gas the past few years, except for last year. Hate to say it, I think the gas was still a better machine, just any of the 350s. Nothing against the Kawasaki 450, if anything, obviously it's different. It's got aluminum parts versus the steel frame. The thing I just disliked the most about the Kawasaki 450 was the weight. Going from one of the lighter bikes in the class, including the 450s when you put that all into perspective, the 350s were light machines, and let's be honest, 350 is plenty of power. My last race I raced on one of those 350s, I felt like I was going 110% of my speed and didn't feel tired, didn't feel like I was out of control. It took me a while to figure this bike out. Now it goes down to setup and experience with it. So hopefully now that I got a little bit more time on this, hopefully I can make the Kawasaki work. I think we can. We still got the same result in terms of overall. I got 5th overall at AWRCS in 2024, and then 5th overall at AWRCS 2025. So I kind of want to keep that going. Obviously anything less than 5th, I've improved every single season of my career except for this last season. I got the same. So, but hey, competition's getting tougher. The kids are getting faster. I'm not getting any younger. So if I can stay in that top 5, top 10, I'll be happy. So some more tips for this bike. If you were to buy an Austrian brand versus any of the Japanese brands, the big things you're going to have to notice is one, the tank. This is a stock tank. I want to say it's 1.6 gallons. If you're going to do any kind of hare scramble racing that's 2 hours, you're probably going to want another tank. So that's kind of one thing that you just have to consider. Even though you're saving a lot of money buying the Kawasaki, you're going to have to buy a tank. Those are anywhere from $500 to I think $800 if you're depending on used, buying new, what kind of discounts or sponsors you have. Overall, the Kawasaki it's a great machine. It's just a learning curve for it for sure. I'm going to try and talk about all the parts I got, why I got them, and if you should get them as a consumer or someone who's just getting into AWRCS, or someone who's been racing AWRCS or GNCCs, whatever, for quite some time. I'll start with the front end. First off, the triple clamps, X-Trig, they're a need. I don't care what class you race. If you're having a Kawasaki and you're not on a KTM or any of the Austrian brands, you need to get an aftermarket set of triple clamps. Not for the performance, sadly. Sure, the performance in the X-Trig is a little better. The rubber mounts help with a little bit of the vibration. But most concerning, the rubber mounts that you get on the stock clamps, they're horrible. I just got an extra set of triple clamps for the practice bike. I don't like to spend money on my practice bike. I try to keep it as bone stock as I possibly can to save money. But it's one of those things, every time you tip over with the rubber mounts, your bars will be twisted up. And if you're in the middle of a race or a practice session, I'm tired of parking, loosening it up, trying to tweak my bars back. These X-Trigs have mounts so when you fall, you're not getting twisted up. Granted, it's expensive, so I get it if you don't want to buy it, but if you were going to look for something that's going to improve your bike performance, along with having the advantage of every time you tip over, your bars aren't going to be as tweaked up, Not to mention, it's very easy to torque spec with these things. They come with the torque specs right on the numbers on the triple clamps. So that's a very nice feature. But that's kind of the big reason. I also have a bad shoulder, so it's nice to be able to have a little bit more bar positions to try to find that sweet spot for my shoulder pain. So with that being said, those are my reasons why I would get a triple clamps. Another thing, these handguards. The only reason I got one on right now is because for some reason they sent me handguards and they only gave me 2 screws and I need 4. So I got to go to the hardware store and buy screws. But anyway, this year I'm running non full wraps. We might switch to full wraps eventually if I don't like these. Big thing is when you're going to compare the two. With full wraps, you're going to have better protection of your hands along with your bike levers in general. If you're running full wraps, I don't even say go buy expensive levers, because if you're going to fall over, the bark busters should save your levers. Granted, I've broken a couple levers with the full wraps, but your odds of breaking them are a lot slimmer. But in terms of form, you know, you want to try and keep your elbows up and your diamond inward on the bar setup. So with that being said, you're going to want the non-full wraps if you want to try improving your form and overall be a better, smoother rider. So that's kind of my main reason why I'm doing this. I feel like if I break a single lever on this bike, I'm going to have to spend more money and buy more expensive levers. But if you're in, you know, C or B level, don't go crazy on buying levers. Just have like your spare cheap ones. Obviously, if you're crashing, you know, you're losing time as it is. I think once you get to the A level and Pro-Am or Pro level, that's when you should probably consider getting more expensive levers. I haven't yet, but I know it did cost me 1 race this year. I lost a clutch lever. So that's just something you got to ask yourself if that's worth it for you. Another thing, you can't really see it right now, but I would just buy it no matter what bike brand you have. I know in the KTM Husqvarna gases, they come with a radiator cap. For some reason I can't get mine off. They come with a radiator cap that's 1.8 rating on the gas Husqvarna's KTMs. That's good. It's good enough. I would still buy a Twin Air 2.0 just in case, because hey, you know what? The radiator is your bike's lifeline, along with your oil. If you don't got any radiator fluid, you're just chancing of having the bike run hotter. And Kawasaki's, they come with a 1.1, which is just absurd, stupid. They're wasting time and money buying those pieces of junk that they put on the bike. So go ahead and buy yourself a Twin Air 2.0. I don't care. Anything that's above 1.1, you're going to be better off. Another cool thing that I did with the bike this year, my suspension guy, Frank, over at AWRCS, does a really great job with me every single year, always helps me out. Because in my opinion, once you get to a certain speed and you work a full-time job, you don't really get to ride as much as you would like to. Sometimes the only way to get faster is to actually start messing with your bike, because you can't, if you're focusing on training to stay in shape, then you're not going to have much time to focus on the bike. So getting the suspension dialed in is a huge key to try and just inch your seconds away. And that's something I've been battling with the Kawasaki 450 this year. Probably because it's a new bike. I've been so used to the Austrian brand, so it was a little bit of a struggle this year. It took me a lot longer than I wanted, but it's something, you know, once you hit to a certain A or Pro-Am level, you should probably start taking a look into your suspension. But what's cool about this year for me, this is a front end off of a KX250 2024, so it's the old frame. So these are 48 millimeters instead of the 49 Showas, KYB. Yeah, Frank said he thinks they'll work better for me. He's had other people try this kind of setup before. They like it better. So I said, why not? I got a set of forks. Let's give it a shot. So I swapped those around. You guys don't have to do that. I don't even have an opinion on it yet because I never even tried it. But I'm excited to, because basically Chase Sexton in Pro Supercross, he switched over to the Pro Circuit front end from the 250s. Had a really great last place to fourth place in San Diego. And then just a couple days ago in Anaheim too, last night, he got the win. So I even said that as a joke in my head. I'm like, hey, if he's going to run a 250 front setup, it's going to work for me. If he goes and does success on it, sure enough, he does. So that's cool. We'll take that. Battery. That's a tough one. I feel like it's all going to depend on who you talk to. If you talk to some pro riders along with some other top local pros around the area, they're going to tell you to get an anti-gravity or just a better battery in general. If any of you guys know who I am, I wouldn't take a single advice from what I tell you for starts, because I probably am the worst starter in the entire pro and pro class. I got a lot of last place starts, so I don't know. I've had the anti-gravity on my last bike. It didn't do anything different. When I go on my practice bike and when I go on the race bike, the battery has nothing. It doesn't do anything for me. So I'm not buying a battery this year unless if I have to buy a battery because this one goes bad, I'll buy an anti-gravity. But especially if you're a C or B guy, don't waste your money on an expensive battery. That's just my opinion. Let's see, another thing. Airbox. The 2025 Kawasaki, you don't have to worry about it. They do come with a little bit of a bigger air filter now. Actually, you could probably see some air filters there. The 24s that came with is a flat piece of toast. I would immediately buy a funnel web or a twin air filter that at least has a little bit of coverage, kind of like this one. This is the stock one. Anything round. There is twin airflow, power flow kits. If you're racing pro class, sure. If you're not racing pro class, I wouldn't. Don't consider getting an airbox. That's waste of time, waste of money. Just for you to go a little faster. Which again, these 450s are so strong and powerful as it is. You don't need any more power. Another thing that I did that I do not recommend for new riders. And when I say I don't recommend this, is because once you get a little bit more experience, you're not going to notice these small details. But I'm going to talk about the foot peg. I got flow foot pegs. Personally, let's be honest, I got them for the looks. I originally got them for the looks, but after running them for a little bit of time and switching back to stock pegs, I realized, hey, these flow foot pegs do have a lot better grip on my boots. Which, since my boots are right here, I can show you. When you run sharp foot pegs, you will destroy your boots. So those are some other questions you have to ask yourself. You're spending $100 to $150 on foot pegs. Well, you're also going to be spending more money on boots because you're going to be shredding through them a lot quicker. So those are just things that you would have to consider if you were going to get foot pegs. I wouldn't recommend them until you're in A class. Other thing, hammerhead shifter. I do not care. Stock shifters, they're fine. They work fine. My issue is I got a size 12 foot, and for some reason on the Kawasaki's, the shifters come really small. I didn't realize it until I hopped back on my 350 when I was just kind of working on it, and I was like, man, like I knew that shift lever in the Kawasaki felt short. So I went on, got a hammerhead shift lever that's 20 millimeter plus because it's just a little longer. So if you got a small foot, you don't mind the shifter being really close, don't worry about it. If you need a longer shifter, I'd buy a hammerhead 20 millimeter longer extension. On this side, as you guys can't see, brake lever. I'll get the camera and show you guys this side here in a minute. Brake lever, I only have the hammerhead because I broke the stock one, because the stock Kawasaki one, for some reason, that's also riveted, I think, and it's just, once it wears out, it wears out. So if you haven't got the gist of it yet, especially with the radiator cap and some of the many things about the Kawasaki, when you buy a KTM, you will definitely be spending a lot less money on parts. In terms of, because those KTMs, when they say they're race ready, they're definitely way more race ready than these things. Kawasaki's have a tendency to strip your bolts very easy compared to the KTMs. A lot of cheap equipment that goes into these things. Now, the motor's good, in my opinion. I don't think you're going to have any problems with that, especially on a 450. But in terms of just simple stuff like that, you're even like the chain slider, chain guide slider, all that stuff, it wears out in a Kawi, and I've never had one wear out in my entire time riding gases. They all have been, never had to touch them. The chains that come with the Kawasaki's are not, they're O-ringed, but they're very tiny O-rings to where you can't even tell sometimes that they're O-ringed. So once you actually get one that's a little bit wider, it will chew up your swing arm, and you have to make sure you're maintaining your chain slider. That will fall apart. I did get an FMF pipe. It's the aluminum, basic model slip-on. I don't need any more horsepower, as I said before. The only reason you're kind of getting it is to shave a little weight off the bike, along with it looks cooler. So if you're a rookie rider and you got a budget, the FMF pipe should be your last concern. Do not get one unless you find a used one and you just have a couple extra $100 and someone's like, hey, here's one for $100. Cool, 100, 200, whatever they want to sell it for you for. In terms of performance, you just don't need it. I only got this. I was even debating on not buying this, but my parents were graciously enough to give me that for Christmas. So, hey, that's something, that was a very nice, thoughtful gift. I'm thankful for it, but in my head, I just had to ask myself, is it really worth spending, a lot of money for a performance extra that I don't need? If anything, the horsepower isn't even needed. It's the weight, because these Cowies are very heavy. So that's kind of just one thing in my head that shaves like a pound or two off. But that's why I think in the C class or B class, don't even think about a pipe. You're not going to notice that weight difference. I barely even notice the weight difference, but I just know statistically it's a couple pounds lighter now. For the oil cap, Kawasaki's, they come with a flathead cap. I don't like that. I just find that they're very easy to strip. But on the bright side, it's hard to over torque it because you don't really need to have your oil filler cap to be that tight. So that's one thing. I like to get one that's that you can fit a socket on. Personally, and then along with the oil cap filter, I got whatever I find cheap that's not plastic. Those are cheap ads. I would get those just for extra protection on the bike. I have a Henson clutch plate cover. Don't need that, but that's another thing that's cheap on a Kawasaki. Once you have the oil or the clutch cover, this side cover, they're cheap. If you get a stick lodged up in there, or you fall over, your shifter breaks into it, or your brake lever bumps into it on a fall, they will poke holes. Gases, I have cartwheeled through fields, smacked rocks, smacked trees. I have never cracked anything on my gas out of all these times I'm racing. Both clutch plate and the other cover on the other side, I have cracked those, and so you have to. Those are. I wouldn't replace them when they're brand new, but just know, if you ever fall over in a rock garden or something, and you're not someone who's concerned about point standings or a race win, just hurry up, take a peek down at your components there, make sure you're not leaking any oil, and continue. All right, so moving on to Kawasaki contingency plan. The reason I ever wanted to go to a Kawasaki in the first place is because when I was a kid, Ricky Carmichael was on a Kawasaki 125, 250, when he first started. And I just loved green ever since. And I've always had a dream of owning an adult Kawasaki. And I never have. And with the whole KTM financial troubles, along with they weren't selling their bikes any cheaper, I also heard the new frames that they were making, people weren't liking them as much, to where that's why a lot of people switched to gas in 23, because they were able to run the old frame. I just figured, hey, this is a good time to switch and try something different. And getting on Team Green's program, if you're buying a Kawasaki and you want to save a lot of money, Kawasaki is going to be your best value. I did my ripping on the bike. I've done my uplifting. One thing for sure is if you buy Kawasaki, you're going to be saving a lot more money than all the other bikes. If you get on Team Green, depending on your, if you get approved for the program, depending on your level, you get $500, $1,000 to $1,500 in credit that you could get in a card, which is nice. You could spend it however you would like to. KTM, Husqvarna, and Gas, you have to use all your contingency money at a dealership buying parts. So that's one thing that's nice about Kawi. Would I buy the Kawasaki for contingency? I wasn't doing it last year for it, but looking at the contingency prices, it made it very nice. They paid very well last year. to where even if I got a 5th place, I got $100, and that's only for Pro-Am. A class and all the other classes were different. Don't switch to a bike for contingency, because especially like how, again, I think I'd be faster on a 350 on any of the Austrian brands. What's the point of going for contingency if you're not going to do better on your bike anyway and not score for the contingency? So don't do it for that reason. But I would do it for the fact that they give you credit for buying a bike if you go into the Team Green program, because that's just guaranteed money that you could spend on some of these extra parts I was telling you about. So you got to consider that you got to throw that into perspective when it comes to buying a bike. Although this year they did cut the program, especially for AWRCS. The only series I've seen that they kept the contingency the exact same was GNCC. So for AWRCS, it's kind of a bummer, but at the same time, it's still the best contingency program out of all the other bikes. But if you were to buy it, if you tried to get the contingency program from last year and thinking that you're going to get it this year, well, that's out the door. Now, if you're in the A, B, C area, you're not getting near what you were last year. The only one that stayed the same was the Pro class for 500, 400, 300, 200, 100 for the top 5. And then Pro-Am, now it's only top 3. So it's not worth it getting it for the contingency, but it's worth it for getting to the credit if Team Green approves you and puts you on their roster. Overall, Kawasaki, great machine. Can't complain too much about it. The only other thing that I kind of wanted to bicker about that's kind of make Kawasaki a little bit of a disappointment, obviously the contingency program going down, and where's the 2-stroke? I work at a dealership right now, Outstiller Motorsports. We don't know anything about the 2-stroke coming out. They said they were. I wanted at least a 300. If they had a Kawasaki 300, made it kind of similar to a Yamaha, they would put KTM out of business, in my opinion, as long as it was minimum $1,000 or $1,500 cheaper than a KTM. That's another reason I kind of wanted to switch to Kawi. I was hoping to buy a new 300. Even if it was a 250, I'd buy the 250 2-stroke. But hey, you know, it is what it is. I'm not in charge of the marketing. I'm not going to pretend like it went away. But that's pretty much it I have for this video. If you guys have any questions on bike setup or any parts that I got, like I said, I'm going to try and show all the parts here. If you guys have any questions, comment, subscribe, and I'll try and see you guys at the AWRCS and GNCCs this year. So, peace out.